Number 10. Snake attacks zoo owner. The owner of a zoo was recently attacked by one of his very own snakes. Even though this guy is an expert on reptiles, he didn't seem able to save himself from nearly being ripped apart by an oversized python. His name is Jay Brewer, and he's the owner and founder of Reptile Zoo in Fountain Valley, California. He's been operating this place for at least 10 years, though he has over 30 years of experience dealing with venomous reptiles. The terrifying incident happened while Jay was showing off some eggs that a reticulated python had just laid. What he didn't anticipate was the snake would end up being protective of her little eggs. She turned on him, tried to sink her fangs right into the meat of his face, and nearly took his eye out. Luckily, Jay was faster than the snake and managed to pull his face away just in time. But perhaps the most remarkable part was the strategy employed by the python. The lady snake had waited until the exact second that Jay averted his eyes before she struck. If not for his 30 years of experience, those eyes may have ended up being skewered on the python's teeth. Number 9. Snake meets bat. Only in Australia would somebody walk out of their home and see a giant snake eating a flying fox bat bigger than a house cat. That's exactly what happened when Park Ranger Louise Keene was going on a daily stroll through her property in Northern Territory. She came across the disturbing sight of the snake, completely wrapped around the huge bat, slowly trying to stuff it in its mouth. According to Louise herself, it took the snake 6 hours to get the bat completely inside of its stomach. The snake ate its head, its wings, and its entire body. If you're wondering just how a snake could fit a bat, wings and all, into its mouth, it all came down to how the snake compressed the flying critter. The snake managed to crush the bat's wings and crush its body into a bite-sized snack that fit perfectly into its hungry jaws. And as fascinating as it is to read about, it's something altogether scary to witness in real life. Number 8. The Tennessee snake. At a public park in Tennessee, a hiker had a rather unfortunate encounter with a large and menacing serpent. Courtney Dunn was strolling near the waterfall at Gregory Mill Park in Smyrna when she discovered a snake so big she nearly had a heart attack. The enormous creature was hanging in the trees like a thick, scaly electric cable. To make matters even more horrifying, she was with 2 of her children at the time, with the youngest being just 4 years old. The danger was that one of the snakes would see the small kid and view it as a snack. Courtney was able to think quickly and step in front of her children to keep them out of harm's way. She also pulled out her phone and took a picture, then hurried from the hanging reptile before it could do any damage. It's not clear what kind of snake this was, but it did have a very thick body and appeared to be over 4 feet long. It may have been someone's pet that escaped, or there could be more deadly snakes in Tennessee than people realize. Number 7. Python on the balcony. On the Sunshine Coast of Australia, a snake catcher was recently called in to deal with an enormous serpent lounging on the balcony railing of a terrified family's home. The snake was a carpet python, and it very clearly had a full belly. There was an obscure shape inside its stomach, making its gut bulge. Nobody knows what the creature ate, but it was almost certainly a local pet. The family was so scared when they saw the snake that they called Stuart McKenzie. Stuart, a professional snake catcher, was positively floored by the size of the animal. He nicknamed it the Beast of Buderim. Stuart went on to say that it was the biggest snake he had dealt with in almost a year. It's pretty rare to find an enormous snake in a residential area these days, primarily because they get run over by cars. The snake probably moved into the backyard because there was a family of possums living in the trees. But when the snake went onto the balcony to get a bit of sunshine and relaxation, the family had Stuart come and evict the poor guy. He never even got a chance to bite anyone. Number 6. Snake hunter attacked. A snake hunter, nicknamed the Python Cowboy, was recently attacked by a giant python in Florida over 15 feet long. The Florida local was hunting for invasive pythons out in the middle of the swamp. It didn't take long for him to find an absolute giant lurking in the underbrush. He grabbed the snake's tail, tried to drag it out of the bushes, and that was when the snake flipped the script. She suddenly lashed out at the Python Cowboy, sinking her enormous teeth into his forearm and almost ripping his hand off. She then went in for more and more bites, stabbing the hunter to the point to where he had blood gushing out of his biceps. Thanks to having so much experience with these monstrous beasts, the python hunter was able to keep calm during the brutal assault. When the snake finally stopped biting him, he managed to tie off his arm with a piece of scrap cloth, get a firm hold on the python's head, and then drag it away. He was bleeding and in rough shape, but he stayed cool until he got the snake back to his truck and butchered it. As for his wounded arm, it turned out to be nothing more than a bloody flesh wound. Number 5. Beach snake. At Bathers Beach near Perth, Australia, something not only terrifying but also deadly was discovered washed up on the shore. A local resident was taking their morning walk when they discovered a rather unusual snake rolling around in the sand. The local knew right away that this was no ordinary snake. So, she called in Jacqueline Lloyd, the owner of Coastal Reptile Removers, to come deal with the situation. When Jacqueline got there, she was alarmed to realize this was no ordinary snake. It was a yellow-bellied sea snake, something so venomous that it can kill a person in just minutes with a single bite. How on earth did such a venomous creature get on the beach? The experts say it probably got swept up on the tide, stuck in the sand, and then was unable to slither its way back into the water. The reason this type of snake is so venomous is that it hunts fish. Its venom needs to act extremely quickly so that after it bites the fish once, the venom will render it paralyzed and unable to flee. This translates to an extremely toxic venom that can paralyze a person just as quickly as it can paralyze a fish. Jacqueline was sure to make a warning to the public, telling them to stay away from any snake they see on the beach. As if Australians didn't have enough to worry about, now they have toxic creatures slithering around on their beaches. Number 4. Trauma at Lake Norman. Heatherly Noble was recovering from a snake attack that she suffered in May when she was traumatized for a second time by another unexpected snake encounter. The first encounter actually resulted in Heatherly tearing her ACL. She had been on a ladder trimming a bush in her yard when the snake appeared. It poked its head from the bush and tried to bite her, and Heatherly screamed and tried to scramble off the ladder. She caught her foot and tore her ACL, and the serpent bit her on her hand and then slithered away. It was almost like the snake had targeted her on purpose. The second encounter was while Heatherly was still recovering, and to be honest, still a little traumatized. She was walking with her 2 dogs no more than half a mile from her house when she saw a plastic bag in the grass. Assuming the plastic bag was a piece of litter, she walked over to pick it up, but as she reached for the bag, it turned into an 8-foot snake. Luckily, the second snake didn't bite her. She managed to turn and hobble away as quick as she could, but suffice to say, Heatherly is now scared just to step out of her front door. Number 3. Paddleboard snake attack. Brodie Moss, a filmmaker from Australia, was paddleboarding when he had a very scary encounter with a sea snake. It was an extremely close call for the paddleboarder, who saw the snake rise up from the darkness of the ocean, then chase him on his paddleboard. The snake got so close that it put its head on the paddleboard, just inches away from his ankles. If the snake had bit him, Brodie may have been instantly paralyzed. If that had been the case, he probably would have tipped over, splashed into the water, and drowned because of the snake's venom, rendering him unable to use his limbs. He was fortunate that the snake didn't like the smell of him. It looked at his ankles, then turned, dipped back in the water, and swam away. Number 2. Serpent at the supermarket. Shoppers at an Australian supermarket got a little closer to nature than they were hoping for when a giant python, over 10 feet long, was spotted slithering through the shelves. This happened on a Monday night at a supermarket in the northwest district of Sydney, right in the middle of the bustling city. The snake was a diamond python, something that absolutely should not be lurking anywhere near people. According to eyewitness Helena Alati, she was looking for ingredients to make dinner that night when the enormous constrictor appeared less than a few inches from her face. It popped out from between jars of spices and showed her its fangs. Coincidentally, Helena just so happened to be a volunteer snake catcher. Whereas most people would have freaked out if this happened to them, Helena was able to remain calm. She informed the other shoppers to stay away from the aisle, then quickly drove home to get her snake catching equipment. She returned to the supermarket to take care of the problem herself. Helena wrangled the snake in a bag, drove it out into the middle of nowhere, and then dropped it off. It's just lucky she was the one who found it, and not some poor child that the snake mistook for its dinner. And number 1. Venomous sea snakes. A new study has revealed why venomous sea snakes seem to be targeting scuba divers in Australia. There have been multiple reports in recent months of divers being attacked unprovoked by extremely venomous sea snakes. In particular, the olive sea snake, which can reach an astounding length of over 6 feet. These snakes breathe air, but spend almost all their lives in the ocean. They move extremely quickly, too fast for an unsuspecting human to get out of the way. Most encounters don't result in death, but the possibility of being bitten and killed is always there. The olive sea snake has neurotoxic venom that can kill a person in mere minutes. What did the newest study reveal? Scientists have learned that the sea serpents are likely targeting the human divers because they mistake them for other snakes. According to the Smithsonian Institute, in a desperate search for love, the sexually charged sea snakes are simply looking for mates. It normally happens when a male sea snake misplaces the female it had been trying to mate with. Since snakes can't see that well, it goes hurtling through the water towards whatever shape it sees. Sometimes, these shapes happen to be human divers. The good news is that once an enormous snake realizes it's made a mistake, it takes off in the other direction, frantically searching for its lost lover. What would you do if you were attacked by a sea snake? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit subscribe and come back soon for another amazing video.